gentlemen, analysts and associates, welcome to your Managing Director Secretary's favorite podcast, the Big Swinging Dex Podcast by Litquidity and Mark Moran. This is not financial advice. You'd be a bottom bucket analyst to make investment decisions based on what is discussed on this show.
Welcome to Big Swinging Dex. Lit, we got a great episode coming up today. It's going to be our first time diving into crypto and the whole world that is. It's going to be kind of crypto for the finance bro, I feel like. We're going to talk a little bit about our time in South by Southwest, go over what's going on in the world of crypto, then play a little edition of Cash or Pass. Lit, how have you been? I know that you had a big weekend this past weekend because I was there with you for once.
It was a good weekend, and if you hear me sounding low energy, even more so low energy than other episodes, it's because I'm actually recovering from the weekend and also a fever, which was a fucking buzzkill towards the end.
Real quick, the weekend where?
In Austin, South by Southwest.
And a fever.
And a fever, yeah. Not COVID, though. Got a lot of negative results. So
were you clapping too many cheeks? Just getting a fever over there?
The fever clapped my cheeks. Let's just put that. What about you, Mark?
It was fun. I mean, I had never been to South by Southwest, as they say, South by. You here for South by? It's like, yeah, no shit, I'm here for South by.
You didn't say SXSW as I thought you'd say.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, I honestly would have until I realized on our way over that the X was like the buy portion of this part. I'm like, why is there an X in there? But it's clever. Whoever thought of that? And I feel like for us, we were spending most of the time with Friday Beers in the Friday Beers house, and then at the little event venue that we had. But it was cool because they had just announced the day that we got there of their $6 million in funding. So it's kind of cool to see them and Doing Things Media, who they raised 21 million a few months ago. Kind of all of us together in this little meme world that we live in.
Yeah, it was a great place too. They hosted this event called House of Internet at the Pershing, which the Pershing is what I learned to be a similar social club to call it Soho House, but Austinized. And yeah, I mean, I thought the venue was fucking awesome, right? Like you can be in one room that, remember that sex dungeon up in the third floor? Well, not really a dungeon, but sex attic.
Exactly. Yeah. It was kind of like you were in like a tent. It was all like striped on the ceiling. And I remember walking up there at one point during the day, and I was just trying to like explore, and I see Maxine the corgi, who's this famous corgi with like 800,000 followers, who was just there with her owner, just taking a little break from all the fame that she has. But it was a wild time. Saw Mark Cuban and chatted with him, and it was great to meet a bunch of new people. All of our friends that were new and that were old that we saw. Ran into an ex-girlfriend there too. It was great, just networking left and right.
Look at that. And did you get Cuban to come on the pod in a few weeks?
He was not in that great of a mood, so I kind of wasn't pushing it. But like he said, he knows, like he's heard of it. He's a listener. He's a shareholder. Like that was the first thing he said. He pointed at me from across the bar. He's like, "Hey, Mark, I'm a fucking shareholder." I'm like, "Hell yeah!" And then he bought me a shot, and then we drank it. None of that happened.
None of that happened. Okay, Anna Delvey.
Yeah. Oh, she's getting deported, though, in other news, actually. She's apparently, I love the New York Post notifications that you get on your phone. That's my only source of news, honestly. But, you'll get these ones where it's like, Anna Delvey is incensed that she's being deported. It's like, well, does she really have anything to stand on here? I mean, we kind of should make her an honorary American, based off of her actions. I feel like being able to perpetrate a fraud that is so big that you get a Netflix series on it, you're an honorary American at that point. Like in no other country, should you have an honorary citizenship. That's what we do here.
I agree. It's the American dream, like Martin Shkreli and Billy McFarland, both who she knew, and it's like, hey, running in the same pack. So definitely very American of her.
I think someone should set her and then Simon the Tinder swindler up. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
God, like, protect us if they have kids. That would be, catch me if you can times 100.
All right. So
anyway,
anyways,
elsewhere in the news, did you see how the other day Elizabeth Warren proposed a bill to ban M&A above $5 billion?
Yeah, you had to actually say Elizabeth, because no way Warren Buffett would ever call for that. Yeah, I
There's
definitely
only one
saw
Warren I know, and it's not Elizabeth.
So yeah, that is, I guess, pretty bad if you are a investment banker that focuses on $1 billion plus deals. Centerview, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, Harris Williams is like, whatever, it doesn't affect us. We're cool.
And
But,
Nomura is like, okay, I don't give a shit.
Nomura's like, you guys are doing deals? It's like that me. They don't have much work these days. But, Credit Agricole, we had that one kid on Twitter who I had insulted Credit Agricole one day. But, we love them. I don't know what else to say about them. They're great. But I don't know if they're doing deals or not. But the funny thing to me was in the announcement that it goes, okay, so, these mergers have cost American families $5,000 a year and kept the median wage down by $10,000 while also giving companies the ability to jack up prices even further. Like, how did you quantify that? Because, we've all worked on, M&A deals and, looked at, various synergies and, we don't even know what's going on in there. There's no fucking way anyone can quantify that. It's wild.
Yeah, this could be an entire episode on its own.
Yeah, right.
But hey, politicians are going to politic. So
enough about politicians. Let's talk about kind of one of our missions in this whole podcast is to not only bring to light a bunch of things in the financial industry that people normally can't talk about, but also really kind of to educate people who are focused on traditional finance, TradFi, and really start talking about this new world of DeFi. And, I'm super excited to kind of get into this because this is the first time, other than when we had Mark Lamb on from CoinFlex, that you and I are really talking about it. And I know you and I both are kind of in different stages of this kind of evolutionary journey, if you will, where I would say you're more advanced in it than I am and know more. And I'm more of kind of a beginner, if you will. So, I mean, for me, I started buying Bitcoin probably 2019, I would say. And then slowly from there, I think, which is the traditional path of starting to get involved more and more into various other, utilizations or tokens, what have you. And, most people kind of, you go to Bitcoin, you go to Ethereum, and then you start maybe come Rocket, something like that. And then, you start getting a little crazier and crazier and you get rug pulled every now and then. But I think one thing that really stuck out to me one time is someone said, you discover Bitcoin when you deserve to discover Bitcoin. So when did you deserve to discover Bitcoin, Lit?
Damn, that is a good phrase. I haven't heard that before, but I discovered Bitcoin, honestly, back in 2013.
Okay.
So that was around the time where this crypto exchange, Mt. Gox, was the exchange. I think at the time got hacked, but or shut down. I forget, right? I wasn't that into it, but Bitcoin was around $300 at that point. I was like, fuck that. But I don't know what this is. And I don't even know how to buy it. So I just totally forgot about it. Kind of kept hearing about it for the next couple of months or years rather. And then I finally bought my first one, early 2017 on Coinbase, and had no idea what it was or what it did. Same with Ethereum, but then we all know what happened 2017 up until end of the year and 2018. So yeah, I
mean, and it's interesting too, because it's I feel for most people, you buy into it, you start to see that you can make these transactions, blah blah blah. Because it was funny actually in talking with Mark Lamb a few weeks ago. I was like, what kind of made you think that this is something that's here to stay? And he's like, well, at first, honestly, the only people that were using Bitcoin were people who were trying to buy, drugs on the dark web. But like the thing is, like the people who were using it for that purpose, they didn't view the Bitcoin like as kind of this asset, this store of value. It was more, you know, you're just using this as a currency to be able to purchase something you want that you can't with, like, say, dollars. Although I would probably say, you know, I don't know, I would think like a majority of drugs are trafficked in U.S. dollars, but I don't know. I'm just assuming like Pablo Escobar.
Let's get a fact check on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, can we get it?
Probably
Look
right.
at the DEA fact book on that. Actually, that's like a fascinating activity that I used to do in college a lot in class. Just look at the DEA fact book for various states, and you can like learn all these facts. Anyway,
and you know, I think like, but just to be on the topic of like drugs and buying, or people on Silk Road also used to use Bitcoin Silk Road to or hire people to kill others, and it's like you don't want that to be traceable, right? Like, I guess back in the day,
you definitely don't. No.
Yeah, like back in the day, right? It was nearly impossible to really trace anyone. Because of that, or because no one knew what Bitcoin was. But nowadays, like, you know, when you realize what Bitcoin and blockchain is, like, that's probably one of the worst fucking mediums to pay for someone to do something illicit like that, because it's always going to be stored on the blockchain.
Exactly.
And it's like, you know, you can track where that money's been.
And so, like, let's back it up a little bit, actually, you know, because what we're gonna do, so we're gonna dive into this, and like, let's level set though, kind of as we move in here. So let's talk about what actually is the blockchain. Like, you know, we know kind of these buzzwords, like it's decentralized, it's encrypted, it's immutable, blah blah blah. But like, how would you describe it?
Exactly like that.
Boom, perfect. You like that setup?
I like that one.
Dunk there. Yeah. So then we have, I'm not going to pat myself on the shoulder for that one, but then we have, you know, all these various use cases, right? And it's like, it's interesting because it's like, that's where it gets confusing, I feel like the idea of a blockchain, like, you know, one of one, shit like that, like I can explain that to my parents. But then when you get into all these use cases and, you know, you have NFTs, you have cross-border payments, you know, you have all of Bitcoin, Ethereum, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, it starts to get confusing. Yeah. And so how do we want to go about kind of like tailoring this for the shareholders who have above average intelligence and income, as we know?
Well, I think we can start with decentralization, because, I mean, that's like the word that's essentially synonymous with crypto, and really what makes it special. And so I'm happy to give my understanding of decentralization and like why I think it's important.
Yeah. Why don't we like bounce back and forth? Because I feel like since we're coming at it with like different perspectives, let's do that. So yeah, fire it off.
Decentralization is a form of having something live across so many different nodes on the internet. And I'm probably going to botch, you know, the true technical jargon around this, but basically it's like centralization. Okay. Centralization is when one company or entity or whoever, right, can manage and control something like an asset or a currency. So, you know, for the totally centralized example, you take the US dollar or you know, the central bank, which you know, controls all this shit. And like, as you probably saw in Canada a few weeks ago, the truckers and this whole, you know, controversial trucking protest and, you know, whatever, like the Canadian government then went to tell the banks to seize, you know, their assets. And like, that is one of the dangers of centralization, where someone could literally just like freeze your assets and you have no control of them. Decentralization is supposed to be the opposite of that, where, you know, you not one person owns something or has control over you know, an asset or an entity. So Bitcoin is a whole network of computers, and so it's blockchain, and like it has to be verified by miners, and there's this whole ecosystem that exists. And it's like, you know, if the government was like, hey, we need to seize that Bitcoin, it's like, it's good fucking luck, because there's not a CEO of Bitcoin that you can go to and ask them for for an asset freeze. You're going to have to like go through all these different types of like, it's not possible.
And it's interesting too, because like I kind of think about it from a way of like, like you said, right? It's not something that, JP Morgan can just say, no, you don't have access to this today, right? Or if I'm in Russia and I was trying to flee because, I wanted to go listen to Big Swinging Dex because I'm on team fuck Russia right now, and I can't get my rubles out of the Central Bank of Moscow or whatever, Bank of Moscow, Moscow Lynch, whatever they have over there, that, then to me, like, that's where it's Moscow Lynch, baby. Moscow. They're now accepting summer analyst applications right now. They may even be hiring post-MBA associates from Moscow Institute of Technology. So we'll put those up on our job board if we have them. Oh man, but and so it's like for this, but it's interesting because this kind of decentralization kind of for me is someone like I'm an American, right, and I love the dollar, and so I kind of think of it as like, okay, we have now these two almost parallel tracks of we have Bitcoin or centralized tokens that a bank could create, right, and then we have our kind of U.S. dollar that historically everything in the world has been on for financial assets, right? And it's almost like, who knows what's going to happen with China and Russia and everything, but, we're kind of at this point now in the future where it's like, okay, maybe it's, 100 years from now, 50 years from now, 20 years, are we looking at having like Bitcoin be the centralized currency? And then does it ultimately get to a point where it is centralized? Like, there's all these questions because it's like we're at this intersection of like you have your traditional banks and governments, I think, like on one side of the equation. Then you have like your crypto fintech. So like, they're involved in like a custody or, lending, like deposits and insurance, all that shit. And then like you're literally like your DeFi stuff on the opposite side where it's like the crowdfunding, all of that shit. And so, it's kind of a fascinating place where we are with everything because it's right now, I would say it's a mix of like mainstream, like crypto's almost mainstream, not quite yet. But you saw like with Biden introducing these this White House executive order was it last week, and so I think for the U.S. that's an opportunity to kind of take leadership in this space.
Yeah. Well, and just to close the point on decentralization, I mean, Bitcoin's not going to be centralized anytime soon or ever, but I guess like
21 million Bitcoin, still zero bitches.
Yeah,
so, internet joke.
that needs to go on a fucking hat or something. But like what could be centralized, and I guess what is centralized in the way that you could see someone's Bitcoin is if it's stored on a centralized exchange like a Coinbase or like a Gemini, where it's like they are a business, and if you just put your money there, then obviously that could get stuck. So
and like, so if you don't want to keep it on exchange, then you can take it off the exchange, right? And you can put it onto one of the USB looking hard drives, right? Do you keep your Bitcoin on exchange or off? I keep mine off.
Yeah, I keep mine off, and it's one of those hardware wallets, ledgers, like the one that I use. But you can also keep it on like a MetaMask or something like that, where not Bitcoin there, but like those are similar, just like digital crypto wallets, where that is where if you actually hold the keys to your crypto, then you actually hold that money. It's like actually having a wallet in your back pocket. And the only way you're going to get, that stolen is if someone beats you up and forces you to hand it over, or you're not looking and someone pickpockets you, and it's a similar thing where if, someone might hack you. But yeah.
And I think too. So while you made the beat up comment, I was remembering this this podcast I listened to where it was on this like the Bitcoin family or whatever, where they just they were early investors, if you will, and then they just kind of like travel the world right now. And the guy was like, we have to have the hard drives like in various places all over the world, because if someone were to mug us, like all the money's gone, which is kind of like a fascinating concept to think about, But I think like the other thing about crypto that I want to say, especially with Bitcoin, that makes it so fascinating is it's one of those things like we all look at it and we're like, man, if only I was aware of it in 2011, like think about all that I would have right now, right? Or if I bought more. And, in reality, like, none of us did for the most part, but you can look at the rare examples of people that have been like, oh, like, I should have gotten in on this, I should have. But it's like the idea, like, you discover something and you invest in it, like, when you kind of deserve it and when you figure it out for yourself. And, like, when I think about the kind of the leaders of the space, so it's like, like a Mark Lim or, SBF, where it's like those guys, like, they figured out that there was this, like, dislocation in the market between, Japan and everywhere else, where, like, I forget if it was trading more or less higher, but they would buy the Bitcoin, in one market, sell it in the other, and they just made a shit ton of money doing it. And it's like those are the guys, it's like, okay, they figured this shit out in the beginning, and then now they're the ones kind of leading all these exchanges and stuff like that. But I think it's so funny, like, the similar paths that people have, right?
Yeah. I mean, that arb trade was like what made a lot of people,
that's what they call it,
a fuck ton of money.
If anyone knows any good arb trades, like, let us know.
Yeah, please DM us and make sure that we have it before you guys tell everyone else and close the opportunity.
Yeah, like, we'll tell everyone about it, but after we do it. So don't,
exactly.
Like, try to make some money, guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that is exactly it, right? Like, there are smart people in the space, and they discovered something that's not even like a crypto native like strategy, right? Like arbitrage exists in any fucking markets. Exactly. And so like that's when you treat crypto as a tradable asset. But I think what's also interesting is the fact that there is real utility underneath it. If you're talking about like the right blockchains, I mean, if you're thinking like Ethereum or Solana or like, the big blockchains that are out there, right? Like they serve a purpose. And what people don't really understand is that they equate crypto to just like, oh, here's like a little digital currency that I have no idea what it does, and it goes up and down, but I don't know what to do with it. And
Booty Goes Up Down by T-Pain just came into my mind when you said that. And I know our producer is going to scream at us. We're not going to put that in, but just like you think of it in your head when you hear this.
Yeah, when you're listening to it or after the episode, pull it up yourself.
It's a great song. Great song.
But, like, okay, maybe if you go and think about, if you think about it that way, you're going to have a bad time. Understanding the real power of crypto, because you're going to equate like Ethereum to fucking Dogecoin or, Doge Elon or Cum Rocket. Like, they are not the same.
How do you kind of know then, like, where, I mean, let's say you're thinking about it, like, you're aware Bitcoin and Ethereum are like, kind of the pure plays, if you will, right? But for the rest of the shit, like, how do you know if it's good or you're not going to get getting rugged, as we say?
Well, yeah. Well, to those who don't know what getting rug pulled is, it is, as it sounds, getting the rug pulled out from under beneath you, or however the fuck I just fucked that up.
It's basically like if you were to go to a bar and be paying for a girl's drinks all night, then you find out she has a boyfriend at the end. You got rugged, right? But instead of this, it's just like in crypto when the developers just take all the money and run.
Yeah, and so that requires due diligence, which is something that no one does. And due diligence is something
I could just go on Reddit and see like what like Pisshead 69 is like saying the next move is, like, why,
right,
dude, what?
Well, exactly. So I mean, that's obviously the way that that there's a scam waiting to happen. But that's like Ethereum, like, there's white papers around it. It is a blockchain. Transactions occur on it. Like, developers are building applications on it. And it's just like not fucking Dogecoin. Like, Dogecoin is what, like
there's no practical kind of like utility to it, right? And I feel like that word, like, that's something that I learned from you, like, when you were talking about NFTs, but like this whole idea of like utility is really, I think, to me, a key tenet of anything, that's going to work in this space, right? Like, if it's just like, it's there, it's just like, maybe it can be memed, maybe it can do whatever. But like, if there's no actual utility for it, then like, what the fuck is the point of anything that's decentralized?
Right. Yeah.
So in terms of kind of staying educated with stuff, where do you get your information from for this? Because 2 years ago or so, there were no real financial outlets at all that you could go to get information on this stuff. And now there's more, there's CoinDesk and stuff like that. But I feel like for me, a lot of it is coming from Twitter, and I know Reddit obviously, but also Discord is another big one too.
Yeah,
I don't really get Discord.
Discord is only it's more of a chat group for a certain project or whatever, right? It's like the sort of AOL chat rooms back in the day of
I have
a topic.
Question.
Yeah.
I was on Twitter and someone said, someone was like, yeah, I made a remark that Discord has a not a nice UX, which is user experience I learned in Austin. And someone was like, that's the most boomer comment ever. And I don't even know how to be insulted by it because I think the Discord looks weird and I don't like the UX, if you will. But how is that a boomer comment?
Yeah, it's not. They're just coping.
Yeah, they're coping.
Yeah, but so going back to how to stay informed, at least for me, yeah, Twitter is definitely a very good source of information. It's also a very bad one if you go up and end up in the rabbit holes of these pumpers and just people that spread misinformation or just have these elaborate scams that they're trying to talk through. And but if you follow the right people who are trustworthy, you'll have a good time.
Who are some of those people that you'd recommend following on Twitter?
Obviously, there's a lot, but I'll just give you some that come off the top of my head that I've found
just
very
totally natural. Just throw
totally
them out there.
Yeah, just So there's this one guy who's very interesting, anonymous dude. Zach XBT. This guy posts threads just it's investigative reporting using Etherscan, which essentially allows you to track everyone's payments, to identify scammers and rug pulls and everything like that. And it's oh fuck, it's one of those hindsight 2020s, damn, the writing's right there. How do we not see all the signals? So that's one guy, for example, and why I like to follow him. Another is Matt Huang. He is one of the co-founders of this crypto venture fund called Paradigm. They're I'd call it maybe the KKR of crypto. Nick Carter and some other guy who's a big thought boy in Twitter Spaces, and then also this guy Balaji. He used to be he was an early Coinbase employee. He was also at Andreessen Horowitz, and this guy fucking is a futurist who called this is even a crypto call, but this guy knew how severe COVID and the pandemic would be, and everyone's dude, this guy's a fucking nut, and then he was proven right a few months later, and so he's pretty forward on how he envisions crypto being used and applied going forward.
Interesting. Actually, one thing that you touched on with the first anonymous guy, when oftentimes when you're asked to kind of say why you're anonymous, what's the reason you give and how does it relate to crypto? Because I think there's an important subtlety here in that.
I mean, I honestly think it's a different, reason, but
well, they kind of relate to each. It's similar, right?
Yeah.
Because now it's starting to be cool. Is I guess the point I'm making.
Yeah. I mean, I was anonymous and still am.
Well, you're a pervert.
Because I have
He's allowed within 500 feet of playgrounds. I know.
Yes, I am. I didn't want to get fired from my job. I'm not sure how many people in the anonymous crypto space actually hold jobs. Not to shit on them. I'm just kidding. But they probably are just doing it so that they don't have all of their personal identifiable information out there and really social media is just a toxic space. I don't know how you do it, Mark, but I'd rather operate in the background.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't give a shit, honestly. But the kind of cool thing about crypto, though, is in traditional finance, right? Like we had to go to good schools, like, work hard, like to take these traditional routes, right? Like to just get to a point where we're like, working 80, 90, 100 hours on a computer, right? For this, there's no barriers to entry. Anyone can make money. It doesn't matter the background you're from, like your race, anything, like how you look, and that's kind of like one of the things about like being anonymous, right? That it's like, you're sharing information, you're building something. And I think there's really something to that because, it's like there's a lot of this that's here to stay. And I think there are parts that are a scam, but, and it's unfortunate because I think the parts that are a scam are the ones that get much more attention, obviously. Like that's just how anything is. But like we were kind of saying, like it's almost going mainstream, and I think like we saw all this. I mean, I saw it because I was watching the Super Bowl. You were there, so I don't think you saw the commercials. But like the commercials, the ads, there, it's always there. Like, what else are you seeing in terms of like it becoming mainstream?
Yeah, that's like a lot. What I hate when people are saying, "Well, everything crypto is just a scam and it's all like a Ponzi and whatever." It's like, okay, am I going to trust Peter 5981215 on Twitter versus Square, this $1 billion company rebranding to Block and like focusing on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general, or Facebook rebranding to Meta, right, to focus on the metaverse and also rolling out its own crypto features, or Citadel Securities. This is a good one. They raised capital from Paradigm. So the fund I mentioned earlier that Matt Huang co-founded, and it's like, why would Citadel Securities, one of the biggest like market makers in traditional equities and traditional assets, like raise from a crypto venture fund, right? Like there's something there, right? And I think they're going to get into the crypto market making side of things. And so it's like, look, people can keep saying it's all Ponzi and everyone's whatever, but like there's real dollars being,
and real people, like,
and real people,
like Anderson Horowitz, like, or Andrew, how do the fuck you
Andreessen.
It's always been Anderson in my head. So like, Andreessen Horowitz. All right, I learn something new every day. If anyone hasn't been able to tell out there to our shareholders, I cannot pronounce a lot of or they're different in my head than they are, in reality. But anyway, like they basically own all of like the entire NFT market space because they're a very early investor in OpenSeas, and that's like the main one. Which is when you think about decentralized, like that's not really, but that's something actually. I feel like we should do another episode just on NFTs because like I don't understand shit about fuck with that at all.
Yeah, I mean it's crypto and its heart, but like that is definitely something else that we should cover. Yeah, very understood or very misunderstood.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like crypto, the metaverse is like what the fuck's that, and then NFTs, and like they're all related, but like we'd be here for hours and just being like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of shit. But so, and I think part of like what we kind of touched on earlier briefly, though, is like this is kind of about to become mainstream because the regulation is really what's going to allow crypto to be something that, large institutions at JP Morgan can start, helping facilitate customers to use, things like that. And, like we said, with Biden putting the executive order kind of in place for some regulation. But it's funny because like in the U.S., all the states are kind of different on a lot of things. Like, we can barely do shit in New York, right? Like like what are some of the restrictions we have here? I know like I've tried to sign up for certain things. It's like can't do it here.
I think it comes down to this a thing called a bit license. I might have fucked that one, but like basically to operate and have like the full set of features available to New York residents, like they have to apply and secure a bit license, and it's something that they don't really give out easily. I'm not sure if they are giving out anymore at the moment, but it's kind of like, if you're not doing that, well, you're out of luck. But every other state, you can
it's like that's so classic New York though too. It's like, okay, like you're in a competition for talent with Miami, right? And so you have this whole new wave of companies that are like, oh, we could move and put our headquarters in New York where we can't legally operate and pay more taxes, or could we go to Miami where you have this like super enthusiastic Mayor Suarez, who's welcoming the whole community, not have to pay state income tax, and like people want you there. Like, what the fuck,
and you would think that that like Eric Adams, right? Like he's getting paid in Bitcoin. Okay, I don't know if that's like a full like marketing type thing or whatever, but like why not make it very upfront, or like run it up the chain to Albany to like say, hey, like why don't we fucking make New York more crypto friendly? And like
probably because all the fucking politicians in Albany, they're all controlled by the people who donate to their campaigns. And I'm sure if someone were to look into that, and I'm sure one of our shareholders like knows about this for some reason, but like I'm sure they're all paid by various lobbying groups for the financial services industry. Like that's why that hasn't happened. Like it's just fucking it's wild. Politicians are just controlled by money, and it's like hindering good growth. Because like I'm sure even if Adams wanted to, like he can't because he's just the mayor.
Yeah. Well, this is feeling like the Drudge Report or
anyway.
InfoWars right
I
now.
found out Andrew Yang lives in my building the other day.
Oh yeah? No way.
Yeah, I was like,
cool
"What's
shit.
up?" And then that was it.
That's it.
Yang Gang, baby. I don't know what he's really up to, but we should get him on the pod.
Yeah, he's really into Web3 these days too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start like telling people like I'm into Web 4. It's like a lot of people are focused on Web 3 right now, but like I honestly see more of it. So like I'm in Web 4. I'm a step ahead.
We are not the same.
Yeah, built different. Like what's in Web 4? It's like the Metaverse, Blockbuster, and Waffle House. The bitches. I heard there were bitches in Web 4. 4 webs and still 0 bitches.
Yeah, just getting back onto topic, with the different states. One state that I like, it's easy to forget it. Well, no.
I just wanted. Sorry, I was. Just say it.
One of the states that I always forget exists. I'm sorry for anyone who lives there, but Wyoming is actually on the forefront of
go. This is a great point.
Of like legal precedent for like DAOs, right? Like decentralized autonomous organizations, and they are essentially laying down the foundation of like how a DAO could become a legal entity and like be a real thing. And so like Wyoming's coming out of nowhere, and like everyone's like, yo, fucking Wyoming's where it's at right now. So
and like honestly, they have because of their trust laws, like they have like a shit ton of billionaires and stuff. It's like a very highly debated thing because like it's really helped certain parts of their economy, but then it's kind of like, oh well, are we hiding assets and blah blah blah. But that's like one of the fascinating things about having 50 states with separate governments. So.
Yeah, so you have Web 0 to Web 2 all in Delaware, and now Web 3, you've got Wyoming just coming out of left field. So interesting to see.
And it's like fascinating how all that shit centered in Delaware, where it was like basically like I think it was like in the late 60s or no, late 50s it started, and they just like started being more and more friendly, and then they were like, oh shit, like there's money to be made here. And then like look at it now, like 55+% of corporations are headquartered there. The entirety of the legal like rulings that dictate like anything involving corporations, that's the Delaware Court of Chancery. It's like it's a fascinating thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And like that's kind of how I see like what will happen with Miami with like Bitcoin or Web3 stuff like that. It's like that's going to be the center of this space in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And shout out Mayor Suarez, and I think everyone who's moving down there is like really focused on like pulling together a density of like talent and a community to just all like build off of each other and build something great. So I'm pretty bullish on that.
Could you ever see yourself moving down there? I don't know. I kind of bat back and forth with it in my head.
It's one of those snowbird things, you got to have a place up here and then a place down there. But yeah, I definitely could see myself down in Miami.
Yeah. It's until recently I'd never spent more than like a weekend there, and then when it's like you're not just like drinking at the Fountain Blue, it's like okay, this is a little bit more sustainable. But anyways,
yeah, I mean like most people that go to Miami and have only been there once for like a bachelor party or whatever go to South Beach, and that's the equivalent of like someone coming to New York and saying, I went to Times Square and that shit was fucking wild and holy fuck, but I don't think I could live here.
It's like there's no Olive Garden on South Beach. Okay, there is one in Times Square.
Yeah, well, there is a TGI Fridays, but but yeah, so I think there's a lot more to Miami that a lot of people don't know, and it's kind of like, hey, that's what's happening. And so I think San Francisco also just recently found out that Miami existed, and they're like, "What? Like, not every fucking city has to suck ass." Like,
wait, I don't think I've told you this story. So I had when I was doing healthcare banking, I would go to the J.P. Morgan healthcare conference that was in San Francisco. Now it's like probably the metaverse of San Francisco. So like your car still gets robbed and the windows still get broken. I really do sound like Drudge Report today. Like I'm not like normally like this. It's just like certain topics. Like I hate San Francisco, but for this reason. So I was walking in like my Ferragamo loafers, right? Because you gotta look the part when you're there. And I stepped in human feces, and so then I was like, you know what? I'm only gonna wear that
Sage
pair.
Kelly's?
What? What'd you say?
Is it Sage Kelly's? There are layers to that.
That is a niche joke for those who have read the Sage Kelly lawsuit. Highly recommend. He is my dream podcast guest. Dream, but for some reason, I have a feeling that Cantor Fitzgerald will not allow that one to happen. But goddamn, those are going to be some wild stories. Also, one thing we're going to start doing is bringing on people in the industry, and we're going to like do, if they want their voice changed or whatever. We just want to hear the most ridiculous fucking stories anyone has. We'll keep you anonymous, so let us know. Reach out if you're interested, and we'll make that happen. I think that'll be hilarious. But anyway, so I had this pair of shoes that the last time I wore it was at the prior JP Morgan healthcare conference. So I go back to San Francisco again, and then sure enough, I stepped in human feces again. And that is my experience in San Francisco. But if
are you not looking where you're going,
bro? Like there's a company there that they just built like kind of some tech over the 311, the public number you would call to report human feces. Then they made a hot spotting thing. They sold it for $100 million. Like that's how big of a problem it is. It's not just like I'm stepping in shit. Like I'm not paying attention. That's probably part of the problem. But like it's there, man. It's wild. It sounds like I'm making it up, but I'm not. All my healthcare professionals know.
There's a lot of money in big shit.
The other funniest thing that happened there is there was a Lazard director who was like talking to this woman, and he didn't understand that she was a prostitute, and so it's like me and like 5 other people just watching this like British dude talk to a prostitute, have no idea that it was the funniest thing in the world. I almost missed my pants.
Was he drunk or sober?
I mean, he wasn't like blackout drunk or anything. He's just like he's British, like they don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Built different. Okay. Back to basics, or back to the topic at hand. A few more questions I have for you. So it's like, I feel like both of us, you kind of, are bullish on the space, like continue to be more invested in it in the future. But like for you, with this whole stuff you're doing with Bain, you get a lot of stuff that comes across your desk, your email, however we want to put it. But like, what are you kind of interested in there? Are there things that you invest in through this, or like what talk to me about that?
Yeah, I say that I am focused on a lot of things, and like fintech is the overarching umbrella that encompasses the types of like crypto or DeFi investments that I'm looking to make. And that, I think what's most interesting to me is like companies that are enabling like these yield generating platform alternatives, where like in the traditional markets, right, like the way you're going to get yield is through like a treasury or like a corporate bond or something like that. And I mean, like, okay, you're going to make a few percentage points or whatever, and depending on like the risk you're taking on. Same thing with crypto, and like they're building out this entire alternative infrastructure that allows people to earn significant yield, and there's a lot of these crypto yield type platforms out there. I invested in one.
I've heard of one that sponsors this podcast where it's the only stablecoin that pays you interest 3 times a day, every 8 hours, even while you sleep.
That's boom.
Organic product placement.
Yeah, like CoinFlex is the perfect example of one that I think is like, doing it right. Like people want to earn money on their money instead of it being eaten away by inflation, right? And as
Macklemore says, make the money, don't let the money make you.
Fuck yeah, there you go. can't play that one either. So, boo to our producer, or rather to copyright laws.
Yeah, to copyright. Be clear, Red. Don't put in some noises right now. Okay, let's calm it down.
So yeah, like I think crypto yield is definitely like one of the most exciting places, at least for me. Just because I like to make, a return, stable coins like that are making money, at least to me, is like the boomer way of like, allocating money and earning on crypto versus like, okay, I'm going to go all in on some literal shitcoin that could go up like 10,000%, or it could just go to zero.
Did I ever tell you about my Dogelon investment?
No, you didn't. But
I'm gonna sound like an idiot, dude. Right. So when I came back from F-Boy Island, one of my buddies on the show, Garrett, was like, "Yo, my boy is part of like this Dogelon thing, right?" And he's like, "I'm gonna put some money into it, like, bro, it's gonna be good." I'm like, I mean, look, if it's an inside thing, like I'll throw $1,000 in it, whatever. So the thing like pops up to like 13,000 overall investment. Then it goes to like, it was so low in my MetaMask, it was like it cannot be retrieved. And then it popped back up to like 1,300. I was like, okay, like I thought all that money was gone, but this over the course of like 5 months or so, pulled that out. And that was like, definitely an example of not doing any due diligence, doing something stupid from an individual who was on reality television, and shouldn't have done that. But it's a good learning experience.
Definitely. So that is,
like, for some of these, like there's the amount, like when you convert it to dollars, it's so small. It's like 18 digits. Like I don't know I have 1 billion of these. What does it mean? Yeah,
I mean that's the whole psychological play on them. Yeah. But okay, so going back to that, like that is actually touching upon another interest, and actually one company that I did invest in that is not public or announced yet, or it's not closed, but what they do is or they will be doing, since again, like startups are all in the process of building things that don't really exist yet. They're building an insurance platform for digital assets to prevent people from losing assets like a Bored Ape, or like a your cryptocurrency from a wallet, or even extending digital assets to mean like your Instagram account, right? And so like as a lot more money goes into digital assets over time, the risk of a lot of money being stolen increases over time, more hackers getting into it, and the need for insurance to help you recover that, or pay you out if whatever something happens.
So it's like, the British dump where there's like 21 million of Bitcoin or whatever it is that they like searching for the keys for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one that's very smart. I like that.
Yeah. And so that's I can keep going on there, but maybe on the next one we can really dive into other sectors that I think are interesting from a VC perspective. But
for sure. But actually, kind of in that same vein of VC perspectives, Lit, I feel like I hear a noise, and that noise is telling me that it's time for cash or pass.
Cash or pass.
Let's do it.
Let's do a little crypto themed edition. Last time we had anything with crypto, we decided to cash on the DAO for Bebar, and now I think we know that we would obviously have to domicile that in Wyoming. So we'll get the shareholders working in on that. Are there any other like new hot? I mean, it's going to be like 70 degrees today. I'm ready to go drink. I don't know if there's any like new bars to go to or anything, but anyway, I digress. So. Let's say, okay, cash or pass on like a peer-to-peer crypto lending platform, like almost like a lending club, but it's just like crypto. What do you think?
Fuck yeah. I think that one could be interesting, but I had a shitty time on Lending Club.
Really?
This was like a long time ago. I put some money. I'm like, some guy was like, hey, you can make 10+% on lending your money to someone else. And I was like, okay, well, sounds great. and then I fucking lost like a bunch of money, and I think like everything was unsecured, so that really fucked me and everyone else. Yeah, I got rugged the old-fashioned way. By someone.
Snake oil salesman.
Exactly. I don't even know what they fucking did. They probably bought drugs, or maybe they bought Bitcoin. Now they're rich. But
so this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so it depends. I if it's all unsecured, fucking like pass immediately. But if there's like collateralization, hey, like you have a little skin in the game there, then I'll give it a cash. But
okay.
Very dependent.
All right, next one, Jesus coin. And so the whole benefit of the Jesus coin is your sins are forgiven if you buy enough, right? But it's a tiered membership, and it's sponsored by Joel Osteen. All proceeds go for him buying a private jet.
Yeah, no. So Joel Osteen is a rugger. So pass
Do you
on that.
You remember in Houston when it was flooding and like people needed a place to stay, and he's like, "No, I'm not opening like the doors to my fucking
church."
And it's like then the blowback was so bad that they had. It's like, bro, what?
Yeah.
But you need a plane? Like, fuck off.
Now that is not a man of Jesus. Yeah. No. So I mean, what would you do, Mark?
Now I kind of feel like I miss my calling being a Southern Baptist preacher and just like telling my followers to get me a jet. But I know that's a hard no. But I got one that's interesting for you.
Okay.
So you know how BlackRock is kind of buying up single family homes all around the U.S., right?
Yep.
Which you can kind of get into all the dynamics and societal issues that can potentially create. But would you be an LP in a virtual BlackRock in the metaverse, right?
Yeah. Buying what?
Buying all the single family homes in the metaverse. Duh.
In the metaverse.
In the metaverse. Yeah.
Ooh.
Like, it's like you're going to like all these suburban communities in Florida, like, that is just the Florida of the metaverse. Like it's like, right before 08, we're just buying everything up. I don't know. Arizona, Nevada.
I wish I knew more about this metaverse real estate, because I've heard like there's already the Hamptons of the metaverse, and like there's people buying mansions and yachts and whatever. I'm like, what the fuck are people spending money on? So
and it's like I mean, I guess where I kind of come with it, like I remember seeing something online, like a guy paid like $170,000 for like a condo in the metaverse, right? And like you look at it, like literally looks like, like a condo in like West Palm Beach or something. But it's like, do you really think we get to a point where like people care more about their lives and their kind of persona on the metaverse, in the metaverse, than they do in real life? Like they're willing to live in like a shit house in real life in like Wichita, Kansas or whatever, and have a Toyota Corolla, but in the metaverse they have a Lamborghini metaverse car and like have a mansion, right? Like I just can't reconcile those.
I mean, I can easily see a lot of people doing exactly that. And people can live however they want. I would say like I'd rather have a real fucking house than a
yeah. Like and I mean I guess too you see it with like a Roblox or like these video games where like people are like and it's not just like kids like taking their parents' wallets and like going to buy Neopets or some stupid shit, right? Like it's like actual like people doing it. I just feel like that I'm not naturally inclined to do that, so I have more trouble like kind of feeling like it's going to take over in the future, and like spending, money in the metaverse. Yeah,
we'll need like the Metaverse McKinsey to pull together a due diligence report on this one and see, what the single family home market in the metaverse looks like. And,
right. Maybe this time they could not advise the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma and not have a opioid crisis in the metaverse. But we'll actually, so. This is just, let me finish my thought here. This is going to sound kind of crazy, right? So when you think about like things like redlining, right, where it's like certain groups were not allowed to live in certain areas because of like the mortgage lending practices that have gone on in the United States, right? Like there's all these, and I'm thinking of that because of like the single family housing thing with the BlackRock example, but there's all these historical examples of things that have not gone on well in America, right? And overall in the world, not just America. Do you think there's going to be certain like societal issues? Because it's like, even if we're in the metaverse and like I'm green, you're blue, they're purple people, like the purple and blue people are still going to be like, let's gang up on the red people, like I feel like there's still going to be shit like that.
There already is. I mean, you go on, you already go on like Twitter, and you have the people with the bored apes. Okay, they're the ones that feel like they're the superior race or the superior NFT, right? And like they look down on other people. It's like, oh, you know, you have that NFT project. That guy's a fucking idiot. Yeah, and it's like, you know, discrimination is always going to exist, and you know, the metaverse is not going to be any different.
Well, did you see? I think we might have said this at one point in the past, but like someone was like, there's an article where it's like I was groped in the metaverse. Like,
oh yeah,
I'm just not to be rude or anything. I'm just like wondering how does that happen?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. You know, actually, I feel like there's going to be a massive opportunity for like if I was in law school or like working at a big law firm, I would try and like make my niche like, you know, Web3 like metaverse shit, right? Yeah. But like. What's funny though is like, you know, there's gonna be all this like crypto M&A stuff going on, and like actually Jeffries has done a pretty good job at like carving out a space there. But you know, you're gonna have like these VPs, directors, whatever, who are like they're doing crypto M&A, and like it's like, bro, you could have just gone to the crypto company and made so much more fucking money than having to like do the DCF for them. Like it's gonna be like really interesting how it affects banking, you know?
I had no idea that Jeffries was in that. There was a TikTok that I saw of like some dude who was like, what's it like to be a Web3 banker? And he sounded like the fucking biggest idiot. But
like those TikToks where it's like a day in the life of a banker. It's like, shut the fuck up.
It was one of those. But obviously there are M&A deals getting done. Like the Microsoft Activision one, while at the surface doesn't sound like metaverse deals, it's like the rationale is for them to get into the metaverse through the gaming, you know, the studios and the catalogs and IP that they have. But I just have no idea when you get to a more pure like metaverse brand. Like I'd love to see projections there.
You know what we should do? We should start a metaverse M&A advisory. Let's be the first full-service bank in the metaverse. Fuck it.
Fuck it, yeah. So we need to secure a lease.
Okay. If we have any
Metaverse
real
Wall
estate,
Street.
let's get a lease out there on the virtual Wall Street. And we need to start a summer intern program. Apply to be our summer interns.
Ooh,
in the metaverse.
Love that. All right, so to close out that last BlackRock one, because I don't think we ever gave a cash or pass.
Good.
I'm gonna fucking pass on that one for now, unless the Metaverse McKinsey comes back and says, yo, like there's some real shit going on there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I heard the Metaverse Deloitte already did a report on it, but I'm not going to trust that. I'm going to wait till McKinsey comes in. You know, maybe LEK. You know, some of my life sciences people out there will get that LEK reference, but they do some great shit in industrials too. But anyway, I mean,
so you're
who
not
out there?
Deloitted by Deloitte?
Deloitted. I mean, who out there is listening? Like, there's probably, I mean, thousands of people listening right now are shareholders who are just word for word ripping the bullets that some, you know, consulting firm was paid a massive amount of money to put on a PowerPoint slide and then send it to a client. Like, that's the beauty of banking.
Yeah.
And with that, you know, that is another edition of Cash or Pass, another edition of Big Swinging Decks. And, you know, let us know what else we can talk about and answer any questions for you guys in the metaverse, because we're going to be busy building Litquidity Capital Advisors in the metaverse. And if you want to join, feel free to reach out to our virtual secretary and apply.
This has been Big Swinging Decks by Litquidity with your hosts, Lit and Mark Moran. This is a Red Rock Music podcast and is powered by Acast. Our executive producer is Red Yoakum. Our associate producer is Emma Martins. For more, follow us on Instagram at Litquidity and at It's Mark Moran, or visit the official website liquidity.co. So tune in weekly to your managing director secretary's favorite podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts.